Welcome to Up North at 4. This is our first episode of Our Changing North, where we focus on the Northwoods and how it's being affected by climate change. Every week or every episode, we are going to talk with an expert from Wisconsin's Green Fire. Today, I'm with Ron Eckstein. Ron, you were a wildlife biologist for more than 35 years at the DNR. Now you're with Wisconsin's Green Fire. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So behind us, right now, by the way, we're in the Holmboe Forestry Reserve here in Rhinelander, and behind us is a white pine tree. Ron, why are old growth trees like this one so important?
Well, as you know, at the turn of the century, from about 1870 to 1940, almost all of the old forests that occurred in Northwoods in northern Wisconsin were harvested and are burnt over by extensive wildfires. And so today, fast forward today, many of our forests have recovered but still don't have old growth characteristics. So really in the Northwoods, forests like white pine and hemlock and northern white cedar and some of our hardwood species really occur only on less than 1% of the landscape. So they are indeed very rare. We have some mature forests, but not really old growth forests.
Let's talk about the importance of these old growth forests and talk about sequestering carbon. It's kind of a complex subject, but just kind of break that down for us and why old growth trees are important to be mixed with new growth trees.
The best way to look at it is forests grow wood. And so how they do that is they take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, make it into wood, and release oxygen. So that's really good. So they both sequester carbon from the atmosphere and they store carbon long term. So very young forests are actively growing forests. Young forests that are 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, even 60 years old, considered young forests, actively sequester carbon at a high rate. They do it very rapidly, and so that's very good. Old forests and old growth forests also sequester carbon. Because the trees are so large, they also sequester carbon at a higher rate. But in addition, they store a lot of carbon. So these huge trunks store a lot of carbon and keep it out of the atmosphere. So they store carbon in the trunk of the tree, in the limbs, in the leaves, in the needles, in the roots, and in the soil. So as trees grow and lose their leaves and trees fall down on the forest floor and decay, carbon is stored in the soil. So that's a huge bank of taking atmospheric carbon dioxide, which we want out of the atmosphere, and sequestering it and storing it in our forests.
More than 100 years of carbon in this tree, right?
Right.
And not only does it store carbon, but let's go into your specialty a little bit, wildlife. What sort of habitats do old growth forests and just forests in general provide?
Well, forests are very diverse, and the key to wildlife habitat is diverse forests of many ages, from young forest to old forest. So here in the Northwoods, we have some 350 species of birds, mammals, amphibians, reptiles that live in forests, plus all the countless invertebrates, insects, and about 1,200 kinds of plants, higher plants that live in our forests. So if you're to manage for all of them, you want to write a management plan for each individual one of those, it'd be forever. So instead of doing that, what we recommend is managing forests for diverse age and size classes. So portion of the Northwoods, young forests, actively growing, a whole bunch of wildlife love those forests, middle-aged forests, mature forests, and some of those species really like old growth forests too. Turns out that we have quite a few young forests. We have quite a few maturing forests now, 60 to 80, 90 years old, but we don't have any old growth forests. Again, less than 1% of the Northwoods are in old growth forests, and that is defined as trees or forests older than about 150 years old. Old growth forests have certain characteristics important for wildlife. Large old trees, they have a lot of snags and cavity trees and den trees. They have large logs on the woody on the forest floor, and all these habitats are used by those kind of plants and animals that like mature and older forests.
Thanks so much, Ron. We're going to talk more about biodiversity after the break, how some animals are better in climate change conditions and how some may not be surviving as well they have in the past. We'll talk about that right after the break.